Hi friends, I'm Mary Knabe. Welcome to my Stampin' Piece studio in Westerville, Ohio. Today is Tuesday, September 24th, and it truly is fall. I'm excited about that. It even feels like fall this week in Central Ohio. We're finally getting some rain after, 20 some days without any rain. And the temperatures are in probably 70, I would say, low 70s, high 60s, something like that. So I'm excited for fall to be here. The colors on the trees are starting to change. It's just super nice. So even with the rain, it's really nice. Excuse me, a quick reminder, today Stampin' Up! Had a clearance rack refresh. So they've added lots and lots of new products to the clearance rack at deep discounts, some up to 60% off. I was on early in the day and there was lots left. Designer series paper for $5, lots of punches, embellishments, ribbons, some decorative masks, trying to think of it, retired cardstock colors, some of those bright in colors we had a couple years ago. So please check it out. And I'd love for you to shop and get some great deals. Let's go ahead and start sharing this live video to invite others to join us this afternoon. If you are watching past 5 p.m. Eastern Time on September 24th, you're probably watching the replay. So thank you as well for watching and sharing. I'm going to be working with the Frosted Forest Decorative Masks today. If you have been with me for a while, you know how much I love decorative masks. They're just easy and fun to work with, and they give great results. And if you've never tried them, definitely stick around because I want you to see how easy and fun it is to create using Stampin' Up! Decorative masks. So I'll flip my camera around now, and while I'm doing that, would you please continue to share this video? You can even tag your friends right in the comments. Uh-oh. Little problem here. Come on. Okay, not seeing, there we go. Wasn't seeing what I need to see on that screen. Thank you for your patience. Okay, first I'm going to show you the products that I'm using today. I am using Frosted Forest Decorative Masks, and there's actually 2 sets of masks in here. Masks 1, 2, and 3, and they are numbered under that little V cutout, allow us to make a deciduous tree. And then the other set of masks allows us to make some evergreen trees. I'm going to put these aside because I'm not using these today. I'm using the masks that make a deciduous tree. These coordinate with the Frosted Forest stamp set and dies. And again, I'm only using the decorative masks, not the other components of this wonderful bundle. But I will be using this in the future. And for my sentiments today, I'm using Comforting Thoughts. This is a great one to use when you're making cards for someone that is going through cancer or an illness or a loss or some kind of great difficulty or burden or challenge. So if you don't have this, I would encourage you to take a closer look at it. Again, it's called Comforting Thoughts. I'm going to make 3 cards with you today. I have 3 pieces of basic white cut, all the same size, 5.5 by 4.25. So I just took a standard size 8.5 by 11 sheet of basic white cardstock and cut it in half in each direction. And that gave me 4 pieces. I just need 3 for today's demonstration. And when you're using decorative masks from Stampin' Up, you will find that they are either numbered or lettered sequentially. So I'm going to start with mask number 1, then number 2, and finish with number 3. And I've already got some scrap here. I'm kind of frugal, so yes, this is a piece of cardboard from one of my small grid packets. And to hold this in place, I'm just going to put a tiny, tiny bit of adhesive on the back. Okay. And then I'm going to just kind of move this first mask around the trunk of the tree until I get it where I feel like it's in a good position for me to work. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to do a couple of things here. The first thing I'm going to do is use some, what is this called? Post-it tape, which by the way is super handy. I was so glad when my friend introduced me to this. So it's now become a staple in my craft room. I bought mine on Amazon, but I'm sure there are many places you can buy it. Okay. And I'm going to use pecan pie for the trunk of my tree. Oh, the other thing I want to do is just make this little indentation. So now when I do the consecutive masks, I will know exactly where to line them up. Sometimes it also helps to mark 2 of the sides of your mask as well. So I'm going to ink up a small blending brush. If you have large, they will work fine for this as well. But I'm using pecan pie for the tree trunks. And what I'm going to do is just kind of start off and then move on to that tree trunk and fill it in. Just keep swirling, swirling, swirling. You can make it lighter, darker, whatever you like, okay? Then I'm going to lift this off, push that out of the way, and then I'm actually going to use Pretty in Pink. And the reason I'm choosing Pretty in Pink is because next month is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And while we don't see blooming, flowering trees here in Ohio in October, I thought it still is very nice. It'll look spring-like, but it still is very nice for breast cancer awareness. So I'm going to match up those markings, that V at the top left, and also the markings I made on 2 of the sides of the mask. And you will see that this mask really has pieces that fit right on top of the branches of from our tree trunk. So I'm going to start with my Pretty in Pink. Going to go off and then move on and just swirl lightly. Again, you decide how dark or light you want it to be. And when you feel like it's a shade that is pleasing to you, you just stop. Now here is, with this, I'm actually demonstrating a tone on tone. So I'm going to do the next step with the same color. So, whoops. So I'm going to add mask number 3, lining it up with my little V and the side markings. And again, I'm going to be using Pretty in Pink. And again, you just go as dark or as light as you want it to be. Keep in mind that since you're doing ink on ink, these, what do I want to call these detailed, or this detailed mask will help you create a darker color on your original tree. Okay, so there is basically my finished tree. I am going to, and I just let that fall into my ink pad. Let me move that. I am going to use some Old Olive ink to create some grass below my tree. So again, I want to start off the cardstock and then move on to it. You always want to start off your cardstock, whether it be on your glass mat or on a piece of scrap. And that will give it a softer look, not blotchy. Okay, when I say blotchy, think of this. When I first put this down and I start coloring, you see that circle or very rounded part? That would end up on my cardstock if I didn't start off. Okay. Oh, Sharon, trust me, anytime we do something new, yes, we're nervous about it, but it's my job to help you build your confidence by showing you how easy it is, step-by-step directions. One thing I did not do earlier is, since I'm doing several of these, if I mark the 4 sides of my basic white cardstock, then I can lay consecutive pieces of cardstock in the same place, and then I already have the same markings that I need for my masks. Again, just a very tiny bit, I don't even know if you can see that, very tiny bit of adhesive. And then I can line it up with the 4 side markings. And I'm ready to go. Okay. So once again, I'm going to start with number 1, which is the tree trunk and branches. This is where that Post-it tape really comes in handy, because you can leave it on your masks and it's still strong enough to do a few, hold them in place for doing a few cards. Let me move this out of the way, that out of the way. Okay, again, I'm using pecan pie for the trunk and the branches, starting off and moving on. Swirl, swirl, swirl. And it's okay if you see shades of light and dark within that one tree trunk. And that's normal, right? No tree trunk is the exact same color throughout the whole piece or whole trunk. And now I'm going to use number 2, but this time I'm going to be using Old Olive instead of the pink. So I do just want to give this a quick wipe. This is the chamois that came with my glass mat. It's real easy to pick up that ink. Yep. And then I'm just gonna make sure it's dry with a paper towel. So I will line this number 2 mask up with my markings. And now I'm ready to add some green. And let's see, I'm trying to keep track. This is my trunk. Keep track of my blending brushes. I don't have a blending brush for every color. Who knows? Maybe someday I will, if I just slowly add a pack of small blending brushes to my orders periodically. But right now what I try to do is keep one that's like browns, one that's greens, one is yellow, one's pink, that sort of thing. And at the end, I will show you how to clean your blending brushes so that you can use them with multiple colors. So I'm just going kind of light here with my Old Olive. I can go darker and deeper if I want by adding more ink. Okay, and then I'm going to stop and pull up mask number 2 and then add mask number 3. But instead of going over this with the same, looks like I had a little something on my mask. Instead of going over this again using mask number 3 and Old Olive, I'm going to pull in a second color. So now you can see what happens, or the differences when you're doing a tone-on-tone of the same color or a tone-on-tone with another shade of the same color. So in other words, the first card I did tone-on-tone, soft pink for both layers. This time I'm doing tone-on-tone with 2 different shades of green. So I started with Old Olive, and I'm going to use Mossy Meadow as my second color, but I am going to just clean this off a bit. It's green on green, and I went with the lighter green first, so it doesn't matter a whole lot. But if you had made a whole bunch or had been using the same blending brush, say several times or dozens of times in your card making or crafting, you would want to clean it off just a little bit so you get the truer Mossy Meadow color. And I'll start off, move on. And after we make all 3 cards, I will show you some more samples because there are so many differences. The wonderful thing about this and using the masks is you can't go wrong. They're all going to turn out great. They all might vary a little bit based on the pressure and the amount of ink you're using, that sort of thing, but you're never going to be wrong. Isn't that wonderful? And look how nicely this turned out, okay? And up here you can see my hand was a little heavier with that Mossy Meadow on the blending brush, and here got a little lighter. So even that I like because it that's that many more shades of green in it. And then let's finish off with some grass down here. We could even add a little blue around the trees too for some sky effect. All right, now one more. In this next demonstration with the, what did I call this? Frosted Forest Masks. This time I'm going to use 3 colors and do something a little bit different than I did in each of the first 2. So again, I'm going to, let me close this one up because I'm finished with Mossy Meadow. So again, I'll start with number 1, which is my tree trunk. Matching up, lining it up with all my markings. Do you see how helpful it is to have those markings in place? Doris, you must have been reading my mind, because next I am making a fall tree for you. And this, yeah, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. All right, once again, pecan pie. I love this color. When Stampin' Up! Decided to retire soft suede, I have to admit I was a little blue about that, because I loved soft suede. Just a nice medium brown between the early espresso and crumb cake. Okay, let me just say, I love pecan pie. I might even love pecan pie a little bit more than I loved soft suede. So kudos, Stampin' Up! You made me happy. Okay, next I'm going to do mask number 2. I don't need to clean this one off because I am going to start with Old Olive. Get out of my way. Okay, starting with Old Olive, going off. Just going kind of light. Right now our trees are more green, but slowly turning. So I went kind of light with the Old Olive. Then I'm going to keep that mask on, and I'm actually going to add a second color right here. And this is Daffodil Delight. And when you're doing things like this, there is no one answer or one color combination of 3 inks that works best. Try different ones and see what you like. And the wonderful thing about using nature elements in our cards, they don't all have to be the same. They don't have to be perfect, right? But they're going to be stunning no matter what. So I've inked up this blend with Daffodil Delight. I'm starting off, and I'm really just going into a few areas. I'm not necessarily going to go over all parts of the tree, okay? Just a few areas. I think I kind of like that, okay? And again, they're all going to turn out a little bit differently. This is another fun thing about using the masks. Because we're blending various colors, they all will be a little bit unique. And then finally, I'm going to add some pumpkin pie. Now, well, I guess I pulled off that other. Oh, it's got a little crinkle in it. Let's see how that does. Okay. Here's something I found. You don't always have to clean your mask if it's something that, if it's a color that will still coordinate with what you're doing. Because what will happen, I'm actually going to clean up lightly with a paper towel. What will happen is when I'm using the pumpkin pie, it will pick up some of this Old Olive on the mask, or I guess that's Mossy Meadow there. Pick up some of that green color, And we'll even alter the pumpkin pie color just a wee bit. Okay, so ink up my blending brush, and I'm just going to kind of go over various parts. Some might be darker, some might be lighter. Okay, doesn't necessarily have to be all even. And then look at my tree. Is that not gorgeous? I love it, love it, love it. Okay, let's put some grass down here. First of all, I better close this up. And I will go back to, oops, that's mossy meadow. I need my old olive. So Doris, does that meet your expectations? Since you and I were kind of thinking alike. So I'm going to add some old olive here. I'm also going to go over this just a bit. I still have some of that pecan pie ink on my brush. So I'm going to go over that a little bit too. Anybody else live in Ohio and their grass has been very brown from being dry? I've watered mine just enough to keep it alive. But it is that time of year. The grass will go dormant soon. So here I've got a combination of the old olive. If you think it needs more old olive, then I did too much brown. It's just a matter of preference. You can always go back and add more. Okay. And again, I bet I could do this very same process with the very same colors over and over and over. And each card would probably turn out differently. And to me, that's a really fun thing. I love techniques that help us build one-of-a-kind cards. All right, so, oh, I did say we could add some blue. So let's see, what would be a good sky color? Today's kind of gray in Ohio, so I'm not thrilled about that. I don't want to add a gray, but how about, oh, let me find it here. And I don't know why it's not popping out. Here it is. I'm going to do Pool Party. And I just want this really, really light. Katie, I'm glad you found me live too. It's nice to have you. And start off. And I'm starting over here. I don't want to go over the inky areas from the other side, because that will kind of change the color of the pool party, and I don't want to do this. And just adding the slightest bit of color. You see how that started picking up the orange? I got a little close there. And it's not hurting anything, but it's just not what I wanted. Okay, I like that. So I'll stop. Remember that I have a little bit of adhesive on the back of each of these holding those pieces in place. I'm going to do the same thing here, add a little sky. Doing this gives a little bit more dimension. You can even go inside because, right, we see the sky through the tree branches. So you can do that if you like as well. I didn't do that on this one, but I can. Notice this one I want just a little lighter. And then I'll do this one. This would be a great springtime version for this set of decorative masks. But as I told you, I'm using it for cards during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And because I chose the Comforting Thoughts stamp set, you could use these cards, or any of these cards, any of these trees, to send some cards of encouragement and hope to people battling cancer, but also maybe going through some serious illness or a loss, or I want to move these masks out of the way, or some kind of, I'll say, life challenge or burden. All right, now let me wipe this, make sure I have no ink on here. And also, this, I had my cardboard, my scrap, adhered down, and this chamois took that adhesive right off, no problem. I'm going to go over it with my paper towel just to be sure it's dry before I start laying out my card pieces. Okay, so if you remember from the beginning, I said that these pieces of basic white that I was starting with measured 5.5 by 4 1/4. I want to cut these down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches, which means I need to take a 1/4 inch off all the sides. And I really like to do this just because for me, it was, I felt like it was a little easier to handle the pieces with the masks by cutting them 5.5 by 4 1/4. Do you have to cut them that way? No, you don't at all. Okay, I want to make that clear. But as you saw, the masks are a good bit larger than our typical card layers. So that's why I did it, just to help me handle it a little bit better. The other reason is if I were adding more stamped images or sentiments, that would make it a little bit easier for me too. And there is nothing wrong with putting a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece on your card front. Okay, I know plenty of people who do that. Okay, let's see here. Oops. So I'm taking off a 1/4 inch all the way around. Joyce, I love my glass mat, and to be 100% honest, I will never go back to using anything else than this glass mat. I have tried many different mats over the course of the years, and I absolutely love this one. Oops, did I cut the right amount? Oh, that was supposed to be 5 inches. Darn it. Okay, well, we'll just go with it. So wait a second, I have 4 3/4. Let myself get distracted there. So it should really be 4 3/4 by 3.5. So I'll just do that, and we'll have to alter the next layer. No big deal. No big deal. Okay, but Joyce, as I was saying, I love, love, love my glass mat. It's so easy to clean up. Even that adhesive I had here, I didn't have to scrub. I just used the chamois it came with. I didn't necessarily have to use a piece of scrap paper with the blending brushes. I could have just done it right here. It's just that because I was doing so much blending with so many colors, I didn't have to take as much time to wipe my space clean between the various cards. Okay. And that had more to do with what I was creating. Okay. it also helps getting even pressure when you're stamping, because this doesn't move, this doesn't push, okay? Of course, if you're using photopolymer stamps, you still want to use something soft, but that's just for that type of stamp. But even with using that, you still get a better, cleaner stamped impression, okay? So I hope that was more than a nutshell answer, but I hope that answered it for you. Doris, that's a very good question. You can stamp the tree first, and that's going to give you all these little details around the outside, the trunk, and the branches. That's what the difference is. And I can show you that after I make the 3 cards. But to me, I really liked just the blending and the softness of this without the stamp, but it still makes a great, gives you a great result. It's just another step and just gives you a little bit different look. I will do that after I put the 3 cards together. Don't let me forget though, okay? All right, so I've cut out pecan pie for layering. So most of my pieces, 2 of my 3 pieces for the trees are 3 3/4 by 5 inches. So the next layer would be 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 inch. Except for this one that I need to, oh, I could just make a bigger border. Yeah, I could do that. I could cut it down to have another 1/8 inch border, but there's nothing wrong with having a mat that gives me a larger border. So we'll just do that. I also have some other samples to show you that I think you'll be surprised to see. Okay, so I'm putting this one on Pretty in Pink. We'll do this quick, and then we'll add our sentiments. And the second one I did will go on to, I'm putting this one on Mossy Meadow, but the old olive, this other color I used here, would have been wonderful as well. And then for the last one, I'm putting this on Pumpkin Pie, but isn't that a bright pop of color? But I like it. I think it also helps bring attention to the tree, which is the focal point. Okay. So let's just quickly do some sentiments. I've got some picked out here already. I need 2 of these. And on one, this is a photopolymer set, the Comforting Thoughts. So on one, oh, I've already got it out. See, I'm being super efficient today, and I forgot. Okay, so for this one on the front, I'm putting Cancer Sucks. I know it's not, I don't really like that something sucks, but sometimes it just does, right? Okay, so Cancer Sucks. And on the inside of that one, I'm going to put, which one is it here? This one. Thinking of you, praying for you, hoping with you. I've used this sentiment many, many, many times. So it's actually probably my favorite in that Comforting Thoughts set. And this I'm just going to trim. So we'll use these to finish off our first card, which I think is perfect for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It would also be nice to send in the spring when we have pretty pink blossoms on our trees. This video is going a little longer than what has been my norm as of late, but I think it's well worth it. And on this one, and I thought I already cut the paper, but I can't find it. Don't see it. I may have dropped it into my wastebasket, so I will look for it later instead of doing it now. So this piece I'm trimming is 2.5 inches by 3/4 inches for the sentiment I'm going to use. And that sentiment reads, I don't have all the right words to say. And I will put, I think I want to use the pecan pie instead. I think it'll stand out a little bit more. But I do have a sentiment we will put on the inside for this one as well. Isn't that the truth? Sometimes you just don't have the right words, correct? And you know what I have learned over the years that's like, I don't know, I guess grown and experienced different things. It's okay for us to tell our family and friends, I don't have the words. I don't have the words to make you feel better. I wish I did, but I don't. And honestly, that is enough. People just need to know that we care. And then on the inside, I'm putting, I do have lots of love to give. And I don't know why I closed that up because I need it again. Do any of you have the stamp set? Joyce Wilhelm, I have a feeling you have this Comforting Thoughts stamp set. Okay, I don't have all the right words to say. I do have lots of love to give. Aren't those two sentiments perfect together? And then for this one, I'm simply going to have one sentiment on the outside that says, I'm here for you. And I want to do this one in the pumpkin pie. Excuse my reach. Oops. I know many of you have seen my trick for getting 2 even angles. Just like that. Super easy, works every time. And I will add this to the front of my third card. Okay, so what do you think? And I think it was Doris, I did not forget that you want to see the tree stamped, and then the colors added with blends. I will do that, but before we get to that, I want to show you a couple of things here. This card and this card were basically made the same as this one. I used the same colors, but look at the differences, okay? Do you remember when I said we can add color even if all of the color is not cleaned off our mask? And that's what happened here. I didn't fully clean the pecan pie off the first mask. And then when I lost my train of thought here. So it picked up some of the other, from the surface I was working on, picked up some of that brown. So you see it around the edges. The other thing, this is a newer pad than the other one I have. And here I just, same thing, it's just a little bit different shade each time. It's funny how that turns out, but look at the difference with this newer pad. Okay, and then here I did Pretty in Pink, very light, and then went over it with Flirty Flamingo for the detailed areas. All right. And then with this one, here's the same colors, Old Olive and Mossy Meadow. It just, you know, my Old Olive was a little bit deeper to begin with, and my Mossy Meadow going over that deeper Old Olive gave a different look too. And my Mossy Meadow is more even here than here where it's darker and then lighter in some areas. Okay, I love this card too. I added the bird from the stamp set. There is no good card for this. I'm here for you. That could go for lots of occasions. And then here are two I did with, again, Old Olive for both colors, okay? Here I went very light on the first layer of Old Olive and then darker on the second layer. Here I went darker on the first layer and then probably about the same as the second layer for the first card, but because my first layer was so much darker, it gave me a totally different look. So do you see how you can do the same process? Right, still pretty, no mistakes in stamping, Michelle. You are absolutely right. But do you see how I can use the same process and the same colors and get different results? Unique cards every time. Okay, now these I love, love, love. Okay, so on this card, we did Old Olive, then still using mask number 2, I added some Daffodil Delight. So I've got some yellow green in there. And then the last layer with the details, I did Pumpkin Pie. Okay. Here I did the same thing, but I used a real light touch on the Old Olive, the Daffodil Delight, and then the Pumpkin Pie, which is the details. So you can see completely different. Also here on the bottom, I've definitely got the pecan pie color blended and almost no green, just a wee bit of green. And here I went heavier on green than the pecan pie. So constantly just trying things out, mixing and matching, that sort of thing. Okay, this might be my favorite. Let me tell you how I did this one. So mask number 1 is the pecan pie tree trunk and branches. Mask number 2, I did Old Olive very light. And I did just a wee bit of the pumpkin pie and even less of the daffodil color, And then I picked up mask number 2 and I laid down mask number 3 and it really looks brown, but it's these details were actually done with pumpkin pie, but it's so light, and just the lightness of all three colors. That's how it turned out. I just think that one's stunning. I almost feel like I wanted to frame that, but I thought, no, it's probably better to send a card and make somebody's day with some happy mail. Okay, so what do you think? Thoughts on this? If you haven't used decorative masks before, do you feel more comfortable in trying them? I sure hope so. I sure hope so. Okay, as I said, I would demonstrate the difference that you get by actually stamping the image first and then doing the blending. So let's do that. So I'm going to ink this up with, I guess it could be any color really. I think I'll ink it up with the pecan pie. I'll do it this way just so I can see it better. Okay, put that away. Okay, so there's the outline, the sketch of the tree. Okay, so dropped, whatever you want to call it, my stencils on the floor so I would not, no, where's my cardboard? Oh, here it is. Just a little bit out of reach. But I'm going to use this, and since I have all my markings, let me get these out of the way so I don't mess those up. But I'm going to use this because I already have my markings there. Again, I want to hold my cardstock in place with just a tiny bit of adhesive on the back. And then I bring in, again, these are numbered. And actually the second set is letters, A, B, C. Joyce, I'm so happy to hear you say it. She says they're going to be a lot easier to work with now. And I'll see Joyce at my Creative Escape weekend next month. So perhaps, oh, I can't use the same markings. Duh, that was a kind of a brain fart moment, as my mom would say, because I need to line this trunk up with the stamped image. So let me create some new markings here. Just going to fill this in too. And then I'm going to mark my corners. That'll be a little easier. Just like that. Okay. So now I'm ready, and I'm first going to blend the pecan pie for the tree trunk. So now, because I stamped first, I'm just seeing more detail in there. All right. And then I will take this mask, line everything up, and tack it down, and I will do I'm going to do Old Olive. Let's do another fall tree. Okay, another fall tree. So I've got some Old Olive there. And not sure which one I used for Daffodil Delight. Just going to grab another one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, here it is. You should see my workspace now. Well, actually, you shouldn't. It's kind of a mess. So many ink pads and blending brushes and cards and all that. Okay, so now I've got some yellow green by adding the Daffodil Delight. Now I'm going to do some pumpkin pie. So this will be similar, not exactly the same, but similar to that last card I showed you. Oh, these look a little, this one looks a little darker, I would say. So I'm going to pull this up. Ooh. And then use mask number 3, get that all lined up where I need it. And here I'm going straight pumpkin pie. And lift up. Okay, so there is the stamped tree with the blending on top of it. Both are great, whether you stamp first or not. I think they both look really good. Okay. Bring in some of these to show you kind of the difference. Okay. So it's really a matter of preference. I forget who asked the question. Maybe Doris. I forget who asked the question. I think both turned out really nice. I really just think it's a matter of personal preference. Do you like the softer look, or do you like the look that has more detail? Does anybody have a preference? Do you like both? Or Doris says she likes the one with more outline. Okay, awesome. All right. Whew. That's a long Facebook Live today, but I hope you learned a lot about different ways of using different decorative masks, different ways of using 1, 2, or 3 colors in using your decorative masks, in particular, the Frosted Forest Decorative Masks. And then we got to look at what's the difference between ones that you don't stamp first versus ones that we do stamp the tree first. All right. Okay. You're probably waiting for the code word, right? So that you can have your name entered into the drawing to receive one of these cards. And Beth Mills says she likes the bark of the stamped image. Okay. So it's interesting. We all have different thoughts, right? But they're all good thoughts. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. I love it. Okay. If you would like your name entered into the drawing to receive one of these cards, in fact, I'll make a card with this one too. I'll finish this off into a card, and I can post that on my blog and give that away as well. And let's say type trees in the comments, okay? Type the word trees in the comments now. And if you do that, I will put your name into the drawing. Becky says she loves the pink tree. Awesome. I kind of think of spring, summer, fall when I look at these 3 together. At least in Ohio, that's what ours look like. Thank you all for joining me today. Thank you for hanging me in. I know an hour-long Facebook Live is longer than I usually go, but for this particular product, I wanted to show you the versatility of it, and so that you can get as much from this as you can, as much from this decorative mask demonstration as you can. All right, I look forward to seeing you. Oh, Jennifer Lake, you're sitting outside under the trees right now, wishing they were as pretty as mine. Yeah. We've started turning, the trees have started turning here in central Ohio, but we're not we're still a few weeks out from the peak, I'm sure. All right. I will look forward to seeing you again on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Facebook, Stampin' Peace with Mary Knabe. Have a good night, and until I see you again, happy stamping.